Winter. Snow crunched under Nora's boots. It was a frosty December morning, a few days before Christmas Eve. Nora was dressed in her red coat with a hood lined with sheepskin. A pink and white fluffy scarf was wrapped around her neck, pulled over her mouth so that when she breathed, she felt the air alternately wet and cold, then warm. She walked beside her mother. They passed close to the railway crossing. The barriers were still open. They passed small houses on the right, covered in snow, and could already see the dark red brick station building. When they climbed the steps and Mother pushed open the door, warmth emanated from inside. Nora liked the station and the station hall. The floor was covered with black and white tiles, and the walls were half painted with gray oil paint. Cashiers in black aprons sat behind two small windows. Nora always had to show them her ID when she and her mother bought tickets. The tickets were small brown rectangles with train departure times, the names of cities they were going to printed on them. But this time they weren't leaving. They were spending the holidays at home. A group of people were already waiting in the station hall, women and men. Nora knew some of them by sight. The train they were waiting for was due in a few minutes. Her mother greeted everyone and they stepped out onto the platform. The locomotive's whistle could already be heard. Nora loved going to the station and getting on the train. When she was little and they lived in a village near a small town, she would often run with the children to the railway crossing or go for a walk there with Mother. There was a small guardhouse among the fields and meadows behind the village, but no lowered barriers. Although an approaching train could be visible from afar, you had to be careful, look left and then right, and stop before you crossed the rails and crossed ties. Nora enjoyed waiting for the train, and as it approached, she would look at the windows of the passing train. Sometimes travelers would appear in them, and then, like all children, Nora would wave at them. Sometimes the travelers would wave. Sometimes children would look at the windows and wave back. Nora liked to think that these trains carried travelers to big cities, where wonderful adventures awaited them. Nora didn't know exactly what they were, but she was sure they were wonderful. When she was older, she would wonder where these people were going and why, and later she herself was sitting in the carriage of a moving train, waving to children standing at the crossing. They heard the locomotive's whistle. The train from Poznan is entering track 2 at platform 2, a voice announced through a loudspeaker. The station master was already standing with his little flag. Nora loved the station and trains and traveling. But today was a work day for her mother. She inspected orphanages near Small Town. Sometimes she took Nora with her on these inspections. These were the only trips Nora didn't like. She was afraid of those dark rooms where small children sat in their beds and rocked. Back and forth, back and forth. Nora saw them crying and rocking. Later she learned it was called orphan disease. The children rocked in their beds in those huge dark rooms, alone, tearful and terrified. This image haunted Nora for a long time. Today, the children from the orphanage were coming for the holidays to visit the families who had invited them. The train stopped. It was still a train from the early 1900s. Each compartment had 2 wooden benches, between them a door that opened outwards with a window in it, and the inside smelled of coal. While the train was moving, you were not allowed to look out the window because a spark or soot might get in your eye. Several doors opened in one of the carriages. First, a woman in a long brown coat and woolen hat got out. Behind her, children descended the steps one by one. First came the girls in gray and brown coats, woolen scarves, hats, and gloves on strings around their necks. Behind them, the boys in warm jackets and hats. Those waiting came closer. The woman who had brought the children greeted Mother and handed her a list. Mother began reading the names. The children raised their hands when they heard their names and moved to the left. After checking the list, Mother read the names again, and the children stood before her, one by one. From the crowd of those waiting, women with their husbands and sometimes with children emerged. Each family took one child after signing the list. This took a long time because there were so many children.